Hello and welcome to Sew and Stack by Abaniz. Today we are making this quick and easy small picnic blanket to go see some hot air balloons. It was a fun evening and I'll share more footages at the end. Now let's see how I made this blanket. When I first started, I bought a bunch of fabrics without having any clear idea, and this is one of them. 1 yard of polyester fabric, and I'm going to use this as the back side for my small blanket. Now for the front piece, I'm using an old pillowcase, and let's cut open the pillowcase from one side to get a single long fabric piece like this. Now this one is going to be in the middle area of the front piece. To figure out the rest of the front piece, I'm going to lay it flat on top of the back piece. Now let's see how much of an area we are going to need to cover the 4 sides of the blanket. According to the back fabric I'm using, we will need to cover an area of 4 inches in height. I'm using some fabric scraps to do that, and I want something unique but not that complicated to sew. I'm cutting 4 by 12 inches fabric pieces from my fabric scraps. The length of one piece can vary depending on your preference. Also, get a rough idea about the length of the entire area we have to cover. Since the back fabric is about a yard, I think I will need roughly 150 inches long fabric chain, considering seam allowance as well. Let me give you an idea of how it's all going to fit in the blanket, and it's going to go all the way around the pillowcase. When cutting fabric pieces, you can also use a rotary cutter to make things easier. After cutting all the fabric pieces for the 4 sides, start to sew 2 fabric pieces together. Place them in a way that the right sides of the pieces facing each other, and sew them together by leaving a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Remember to backstitch at the beginning and at the ending as well. Trim the threads. Like this, sew all the other pieces one by one to make a single chain of fabrics. I'm using 2 different fabrics interchangeably for this, and you can design this part as you like. Just make sure that you connect enough fabric pieces to cover the 4 sides. When you think you have got enough length, stop the sewing and trim all the threads. Now this is how our fabric chain looks at the end. As I explained earlier, this fabric chain is gonna go all around the 4 sides, making a single fabric piece for the front. Now iron all the fabrics, including the pillowcase, fabric chain and the fabric for the back. Make sure to flatten all the seams in the fabric chain. You can top stitch all of the joints in the fabric chain if you like, but I'm not going to do that since this is a simple picnic blanket. Lay flat the right side of the middle fabric, which is our pillowcase, and align the right side of the fabric chain along the one side of the middle fabric. Make sure the right sides of the both fabrics are facing each other and start to pin the two layers. Leave a little bit of space at both corners and cut the fabric line at that point. Start to sew along this line, leaving a half an inch seam allowance. Make sure to backstitch at the beginning and at the ending as well. I really don't think there is any right or wrong way to do these kind of projects. Use whatever fabrics you have at home, like all pillowcases, bed sheets, and all clothes that you no longer use, and make all those into a design for the front piece or even for the back piece of the blanket. Remove the pins as you go. Trim the thread at the end. Unfold this newly connected fabric piece and this is how it looks. Now move to the side which is right next to it and align the right side of the fabric chain along that side as well. Make sure the right sides of the both fabrics are facing each other. Pin the two fabric layers. Leave a little bit of space at the corner and cut the fabric line at that point. Start to sew along the line. Leave a ½ inch seam allowance and do a little backstitch at the beginning and at the ending as well. Trim the threads at the end. This is how it looks after doing two sides and follow the same steps for the remaining two sides. You might think why go through all these steps just for a small blanket. But for me, creating then using something I made always gives me so much joy. After completing all four sides, iron all the seams and everything flat nicely. You can top stitch if you would like, but I'm not going to do that. Lay flat the right side of the front fabric piece facing up. Then place the back fabric piece on top of it. Make sure the right sides of the both fabrics are facing each other and they are aligned as much as possible. Then pin around the two fabric layers. Cut out the parts which are not aligning and make sure to keep the shape of the blanket while doing so. Turn around and do the same for the other side as well. Leaving a 5 to 6 inches space to turn inside out, start to sew all the way around. Make sure to do a little back stitch at the beginning and leave a half an inch seam allowance. Stop and pivot when you reach the corners and remove the pins as you go. Do a little back stitch at the end and trim all the threads. Cut out triangular shaped fabric pieces at the 4 corners like this to reduce the bulky parts. Now turn the inside out using the space that we left earlier. Use a rod with a blunt end to push out the 4 corners. We are almost at the end of our project and this is how it looks so far. Iron all the seams and any creases to give a professional look to our blanket. I have never done any quilting, and of course we didn't use any batting to call this a quilted blanket, but it seems like a quilted one because of the collard style that we use in the design. Our last step is to top stitch all the way around, enclosing the opening we left. Start to sew closer to the edge and as always, do a little back stitch at the beginning and at the ending. Trim all the threads. Now here is our final product and some hot air balloons for you to enjoy. Please subscribe to the channel to see more projects like this one. Thank you for watching and I'll join you in the next one.